Hello, good afternoon, everyone. This will be the agenda for today. So we'll start the introduction of the host, which is myself. So basically, we'll start with the introduction and meeting etiquettes. I have already shared this in the WhatsApp group and also some of the understanding on the Slido, and which will be one of the platform we will be using the Q&A session in the end, and we'll start the training after that, starting with shortcuts, lookup formula, and some pivot table formula. Since this is a demo session, and as I can see, some of the members are beginners here and some are intermediates. Maybe there are some functions which you already know, but we'll share as a beginner. This is a platform. As I have also mentioned in my WhatsApp group, that this will be a journey for us from Microsoft Excel to the Power BI. That would be our journey. And it could be a fast track, it could be a slow, transformation. But again, it all depends upon the how many sessions, how attentive we are, and how we are increasing our knowledge in terms of Excel and keep giving ourselves readiness to the Power BI. Having said that, I will go to the next slide. So just to give a fresh up on the meeting room etiquettes, prepare yourself and arrive on time, turn off the mic and camera. I think we have all off. If in case you will be given chance in the end, if you want to share any of the Q&A or you want to talk, it will be end of the session. And please be attentive. Mention your queries in the Slido, the question and answer Slido. We have two. One is for the poll, which is for the understanding of the audience, whether you are a beginner or an intermediate or an expert. And finally, we'll also share the survey in the end so that we can improve our next sessions. So just to going into the introduction, myself, Mohammad Ghayasuddin, in short, they call me as Ghayas. I'm a finance and IT professional having 26 years of experience. I'm a commerce graduate and I did my MBA in international business management. And I also a student of NIIT, which is a National Institute for Information Technology, where I have done the professional software development using C, C++, and Visual Basic languages. Currently, I am a coach, career counselor, storyteller, also a public speaking. Now, moving to the Slido, as you can see that there is a multiple choice question. How would you rate yourself in Microsoft Excel? If those who have joined new recent just now, please put your rating yourself. Please rate yourself. And the next Slido is also for the Q&A for the audience. If in case you have any specific Q&A during the session or after the session, you can publish your questions here. Now, let's start with the training and we will be jumping into the Excel file. So what I have done is during the introduction, I have sent some kind of a form where I can get some information from the participant. So I got around 60 participants who registered for this training, and they have given their information. I have taken away the sensitive information of email address as well as the WhatsApp number from this data so that the confidentiality is maintained. As you can also see, the data is consisting of time-stamped email, the name of the person, age, the profession, how do you rate yourself, country, and any specific function you would like to know about MS Excel. And then the WhatsApp numbers just to create the group and we can communicate. So this was the Google Form Excel file, which I have received it. And this will be the base for our training for today. As you can see, the tabs are uneven. So let's start with some of the quick shortcuts. So if you see here, when I hover on A and B column, I can see a line and a direction right and left. So when we double click it, it auto filters, or the width is been as per the maximum data which is there. As we can see, your profession, it's also having the text is being wrapped. So if you want to unwrap, either you pull or double click so that it sets. So this is the first shortcut which we have learned here. This could be very familiar. But recently, I also came across some of the functions. As you know that in Microsoft Excel, there are a lot of functions where we normally don't use as much. It is there. We use only those we are familiar with it. So the recent one which I came across was Control A. As you can see, the moment I press the shortcut Control A, it selects the complete data range. This is very helpful. Normally, what people used to tend to do is they used to drag this one, drag this down, or control shift down arrow kind of thing to select the data. But this control plus A is giving you the selection of this data, and then you can copy this data to the next sheets wherever you want it, which we know that control C is for copy and control V is for paste, which is also a shortcut. Now, once I had this data, I wanted to share the content of the meeting, Zoom meeting details to all the email addresses. So let's go into sheet number join text. I have replaced the email address into two email address, which is mine, just to keep the confidentiality. So what I have done is I have copied the email address. Let's assume this is the data what was received, and I as a person needs to send an email to all these persons who have registered themselves. So what we can do is we can make a text join. We also have a function called concatenate, as well as let's do the concatenate first and then move on to the join text. So this is the concatenate function. I double click it, then I copy this, then I have to divide it by comma, and then I need to select this two. So this is easy for one or two cells to copy it. But what happens is if I need to send an email, I need to have a semicolon in between the email address. To do so, I need to make an inverted comma, add a semicolon, close the inverted comma, and make a comma as a syntax and enter it. As you can see now, there is a semicolon in between. So far clear? I would like to get some reactions before we move on, since you all are muted. Thank you so much. Now, this is around 60 persons. So for every cell, I need to make like this, which will be very time consuming. If I have to select for third row, it's very time consuming. So instead of that, what we can use is a text join function. The text join function, it has a parameter. Delimiter is basically the semicolon which needs to be a delimiter for each of the row. So I'm putting the semicolon first, then I'm putting a comma, then again a comma because ignoring the empty space. Remember, in Excel or in data, space is also a data for the computers. So if there is any space by mistake and in the text was there, it will exclude that particular text. Now I select the range. So I select B2 to B60 and enter. So as you can see, in a very short time, I am able to make the email joint of all the 60 participants which have filled this form. Now, this is a formula. You can copy this cell and paste special as values. Only then you will be able to copy this and you can paste it in the email addresses, and then you are good to go with the content. You can send it across. So no matter you have 60 or 100 or how many cells you have, you can make the text join functionality and make use of it and add all the emails together. I would like to get some reaction. Is this something new? You can put it in the chat. Thank you so much. Okay. Now, always remember the data has to be correct. The data cleanup has to be very, whenever you start any data in terms of using it, make sure the data is being structured or the data is correct so that you can use this data. Now let's give an try that this particular example what I gave, that with the space, let's do a join. Like I'm making a space for D here and E here, and let's see whether the concatenate function and the join text function usage, how it happens. So if column D is there, so I have copied this column I of 2, which is mentioned as D. And then the next column, next row, which is I of 3. So you can see here already the D space is already captured. And this is what I was mentioning in the text join. You can eliminate this. So let's see this text join function. So I'm just putting a delimiter. Comma. Sorry. I of 2 to I of 3. I missed one more comma because we need to eliminate the. So this is how we can eliminate the space. And if you want to eliminate the space, for example, if you feel that, okay, if you want to check any spaces, then you can use the find and replace. So wherever there is space, you just put a space on the find and replace with without space. As you can see, I'm able to clean up my data so that the spaces are out of these cells or the data itself. So this is how we can also use the cleaning up of data, find and replace. If there is any space, then you can use this easy function of it just to make sure that data is being cleaned up. So far, so good. Let's move to the pivot table. I think most of the people who are more or intermediate or most oftenly they use this pivot function. So I'm going to use the same data. I'm just making this column J as, let's say it's an income. And then I make it one more column called expense. And then we randomly select and data. We'll put some numbers here. So the other shortcut, if you want to copy the same data, if you want to join the same data to the remaining cells, you can see this plus sign, which when you hover and then double click on the mouse, then it copies down. Same goes to the next cell. As I mentioned in the beginning, Control A to select the range. As you can see, the end of the 59th row is also capturing the same values. Now, based on this data, we would like to make a pivot table. Now, I would like to make an error in the data. I'm just making the header column K of 1, deleting, and then making the pivot table. To make the pivot table, you need to insert, select insert, and then you'll get a pivot table. Once you click it, as you can see, the pivot table is only able to select the range J only. It's eliminating column K. The reason is the very important point. Whenever you use the pivot table, you need to make sure the headers are having some kind of a text so that the pivot table can make the summary of it. So let's do again. I make an undo and I delete the income this time, and let me go and make a pivot table. Now you see here, it is able to select it. In between there was an empty cell. However, when I go for the next, okay, it says the pivot table field name is not valid. To create a pivot table report, you must use data that is organized as a list with the label column. If you are changing the name of the pivot table field, you must type a new name for the field. So column J of 1 is something we need to fix it. So as I mentioned in the beginning, any information or data what you have, make sure the data is clean and ready for the use. So let's go and do the pivot table. Now you can see the range has been selected, and this pop-up windows shows off, and it gives the range what has been selected already. And remember, if there is any row in between empty or blank, it will not go beyond the blank filter, blank row. So make sure the pivot table is completely covered, covering your data. And then it also gives you, do you want to make a new sheet or the existing sheet? The existing sheet, if I select, then I need to select where I want to put my pivot table. So I am selecting O here, and then go back to the window and make OK. So based on this, the pivot table fields have come here. So what we want is, we want the income, which I will put it as values. We want the expense, and then we also want the profession, for example, or age as a row. So as you can see, by a simple summary, I can get, based on the age, what is the income and what is the expenses. Since we have given this income and expense as a dummy data, But in reality, when you have your own, the data which is linked to your work or, school or college, then it will be meaningful information coming into a summary. I would like to get some reactions. Is this something, are you able to hear me? Okay. So this is also gives the grand total of it. Now, what happens is you can also generate a formula where you can see here the expense is not having a sign of minus. I voluntarily did this one. The reason is you can use or make a formula within a pivot table, which will be shown in the next demo sessions, where we can use this as columns and make a new column by a formula, reducing the expenses from the income. So this is how the pivot table function works. And you can have as many filters if you want. For example, in terms of profession, you can have the header on the top, and where you can select or deselect. If you want to see the student's only salary, then you can see here the student's salary has been filtered. If you want business owners, for example, and students together, you can just select only these two and then make an OK. You can see the total of it. So you can have various filters, like, for example, you can also have, let's say, the filter of how do you rate yourself in Excel, for example. So here you can also, within this two category, you want to see only the freshers, for example. So you can have your own filters by having by putting or dragging down the column name into the filter tab. So this is how you can use the filters, use the row where what is the outlook of your table should look like, and what is the values you want to sum it up. Now, in the pivot table, it's not only about sum, you can also count, for example. To do so, you need to go to this value, and then there is a down arrow key on the sum of the income. Click on it, value field settings, and then you can do the count. And similarly, I can go and I can just delete this row because there is no purpose, or you can also have, let's say, uh, expense if you want, so that you can say, okay, how many people are in this range of 18 to 25. And if I just select everything, so I can see the number of participant of the registration. Initially, what happened was number of people are 17 for more than 45 years, 14. So similarly, you can use value field settings to either use which function, sum, count, average, max, min, product. Normally, the sum and count and average is normally used oftenly, but you can also use max and min if depending upon your requirement. And do you know that, these scientific formulas, like, for example, correlation, regression, wherever people are doing some kind of a research, we do also have those functions in Microsoft Excel, where you can see you can find the standard deviation formula, which is also there in the Excel. So this will be more on the advanced level, since we would like to uh, go through only a demo session. So I'm keeping this session very, very basic, and then we can build up on the next levels when we have our session to the more advanced formulas. Now we will be looking into the lookup function. So let's go and check the VLOOKUP formula. So lookup formula, in general, you have two kinds of lookup formulas. One is the vertical lookup and the horizontal lookup. Like for example, if you might have a data which normally you have a data like this, and you want to specifically see the columns of the corresponding vertical lookup. So let me not confuse again. What I want you to do, or what I want you to understand is, let's say you have a pivot table like this, and you made this data as your data for a lookup. Let's copy this data into the lookup formula. Space special as values. So I have the data here. So the lookup function is, whenever you want to start, you have is equal to v lookup, which is for the vertical lookup, where you can double click on the lookup function, select the lookup value, what you want to look up. So in this case, I want to look up wherever there is greater than 45, then I close, and then I select the data range. So from here until my last row, I can use the shortcuts Control Shift down arrow to select until bottom of my data. And then it asks me which column you want to bring out as the output. I'm saying that I want the column number 2. Let us go to the formula. Column number 2, and then I close this with a 0, or you can use it as a false, then make an enter. So what happens in here is that it comes the output as others. The reason is the first data which brings greater than 45 is others here. So it is able to look for the reference greater than 45 and bring the column number 2 and display it. Now let's say you want to get the same data. I copy the same formula and paste it on O, column O. Instead of row number 2, I want row number 3. So you can see here the row number 3 or the column number 3 has been brought down here. And always remember, whenever the lookup formula, when you're using, if you have a duplicate values, like here, greater than 45 is been there for a couple of rows, the formula will only take the first result of it. So in this case, the row number 4 is the result of it. And few things which you need to make sure that whenever you copy the formula, if you copy the formula like just like copy Control C and Control V, you can see that the O of 3 is having K of 3. But once I copied it, it's moved to L of 3. So in Excel, if you want a certain column to be fixed or a row to be fixed, you need to use the $sign. Why it didn't happen in the first case is because I copied the formula like this, clicking on the formula tab, copied it, and I pasted here. So that's why it copied as is. But when you just copy from a cell, for example, I'm copying from here as a cell, not going to the formula function and copying it on Q, it becomes NA. So how do we avoid this? So we can use the dollar sign. For example, column A, I want to fix it. So here, again, it's giving some error. The reason is, as we can see, the D of 2 to H of 2 is here, has been changed to G of 2. So again, either you make a dollar sign, because since the range is not going to change, I'm putting the dollar sign on both the column as well as row. So in this case, if I just copy this here, it gives me the same formula. Sometimes when we have a large volume of data, we want to have, let's say, column 2, 3, and 4, for example. So what we can do is just type it in the beginning and give the reference. I will just copy this and paste it here. And I will just give the reference as the column in one of the header so that it copies me automatically what should be my row number. So like this, I can, instead of changing the columns one by one, I just type it and the column is automatically selected for me. So this is one of the way where we can use the lookup formula, and instead of making the each of the columns or the rows to be changed, you can mention in the top and link the cell and it will automatically change for you. So this is about the lookup formulas. So I think we are done with the session today. Is there any questions you have? Please write it in the Slido or you can raise your hands. Thank you, Faizan Ahmed, for raising this question. So now what we saw, the data is on a vertical scale. Let's make a data which is on a horizontal scale. Let's say I'm just selecting first of these three rows and putting it in the new sheet. Just give me a minute. Okay, I'm just making it space special. I'm making it as a transpose. So my data is like this. Earlier you saw my data was on a vertical format. Now I have it in a different format now. So this is the data what I selected. Since I made a transpose, this is one functionality when you want to make your data, want to change it the other way around, where the rows will become on a column wise. So you can see here timestamp. So my data was like this before. Now it has become this way. So just to give you an sample, I'm deleting it out. Now, in this lookup, which we had a data, let's copy this information and bring it here. Okay. Now, wherever there is 45, above 45, I want to use a H lookup, which is a horizontal lookup. So here, my column is like this. It's G. So I'm selecting the range. So first I need to select what I want to refer it. So I'm selecting D of 16, selecting the range, which column I need, and then I make it a 0 and enter. So this is how, and this is why the H lookup is being used. And the same funda, if you want to filter or stick to the data sets, and you can use F4 function to make this complete cell to be dollar. And then you can copy this formula. As you can see here, 18 to 25, there is no data when I picked it, and then it has an NA. So when we normally use a large amount of data, we come across some such instance that we got an NA. NA is that there is no data reference to bring, or any data is not valid. So how, let's say if there is, let's say this is, let us put this as the numbers like 100 WhatsApp number. I'm just putting it as 200, and this is 300. So in here, I want the column number to be 2, 3, 4, 5. Let's see 5. Oh, no, it is not having the range. So it is 13 until 13, and then it should be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So column horizontally 6. So it brings me 100, and then it brings me 300 for 26 to 35. Now, when I have a formula, I want to make a total. We use the auto sum, which most of us know. So when you use the auto sum, it again gives me the NA. How do we come out of this NA? You can use if error function. So if this function is if this formula is giving me an error, then make this cell as 0, comma 0. So this is the syntax. So now you can see the total. I'm able to get 400 easily. Let me give it one more time because I was a bit fast. So if we come across NAs and you want to eliminate those NA, I can use the function called if error function, open the bracket. This is my formula, comma, if this is an error, what it should be. It can be 0, it can be any number. For example, if I want to make it as 1, I can still make it 1 and bring it 1 there. So whatever cell reference you want to bring it, you can use it, those numbers. In this case, I will just use 0. So it gives me the total correctly. I hope the answer is clear. So we'll be ending this session. Thank you so much for your participation. And let's catch up if there is any further training sessions are conducted, or if you'd like to have more, please feel free and we can have more sessions going forward. Thank you so much. Have a nice day.